No one wanted to be a shepherd. This was not a job that was a desired one. It was a necessary one, but it was a despised one. Shepherds were a weird group of people. They were on the move a lot, especially in Israel. Israel is mostly rocks and mountains. There's not a lot of grass, and so you had to be constantly on the move with your flock, trying to find good grazing options. David was a shepherd. Why? Because he's the youngest of all the brothers. Moses was a shepherd. Why? Because he was an outlaw and he was on the run. And it's a job that if you could do anything else, you did anything else. Shepherd was at the bottom of the job pool. You lived outside in the elements. You were unclean as far as the ceremonial, as the temple considered you. So you were excluded from the social life of the Jewish people, which we saw in chapter 9 is a huge deal, right? That's the blind man's parents basically just kind of pled the fifth on how did their son get his eyes open, because they knew there was threat that they might be kicked out of the synagogue. They might be kicked out of community and social life. The shepherds lived among the sheep. They were with them all the time, which means they smelled kind of funky. Their appearance was a mess. They were a different kind of people. And not only different, but as I said, they were seen as outsiders. They were considered not trustworthy because they had no specific loyalty to any specific place. They were also often known as con men because you couldn't ever really get a clear understanding of who they were. In fact, a shepherd's testimony was not accepted in a courtroom. When you were a shepherd, your only real interactions were with other shepherds. And even then, there's this underlying level of competition between the shepherds, constantly trying to take care of their sheep the best. It's a job that no one liked and no one wanted. It was a hard job. And the biggest reason it was a hard job is because sheep are some of the dumbest and weakest animals walking the earth. The most popular use of the shepherd-sheep analogy is Psalm 23. Many people are going to know that, right? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lay down in green pastures. The shepherd had to make sure his sheep were provided for. He had to be intentional with them every day, every moment, or they would die. Sheep are so unaware of their surroundings, they would graze on the grass. And they would keep on eating, and they would keep eating in the same spot until they got to the dirt. And they would start eating the dirt, and they would continue eating the dirt until it made them sick. They regurgitated everything that they just ate, and then they would eat that again. And if someone didn't interrupt this cycle, they would do this until they die. Not only that, sheep will not stop eating. They will gorge themselves until they get sick. Sheep had to be safe. They had to be in a soft, comfy spot or they wouldn't go to sleep. They were easily scared, easily startled, so you had to create this atmosphere of total peace for them to get any kind of sleep. What's the next line of Psalm 23? He leads me beside still waters. Sheep need to drink from still water, a pond, a runoff. Why? Because they are not strong enough or smart enough to drink from running water. They will fall in and get swept away by the current. And also, the running water will scare them too much for them to actually drink, even if they need it. So often, a shepherd would have to find some water and dig a channel off of a river or a stream so that they could collect water to the side that wasn't moving so that it wasn't so scary for the sheep. Sheep have big trouble caring for themselves. They need help to eat, to drink, to sleep. They are weak. They are easy prey. They don't have teeth. They aren't very fast. At this place in Israel, sheep were made, mostly they were kept for their wool, which means they were constantly wearing basically like 30 sweaters all the time. They weren't going anywhere very quickly. It's a job no one wanted. It's a job that was despised even. And yet, throughout the Bible, God says, I'm a shepherd. I'm the shepherd. Knowing all about who shepherds were and how they were perceived, this is the role and imagery God uses throughout the Bible to talk about himself and his relationship to us. Not only that, but he even gives that title to us. In the New Testament, the word translated elder or pastor or shepherd are all the same. They are interchangeable within the New Testament. This is how God's people are to be led, by those who will shepherd God's sheep. In the Old Testament, there are both references of God being the chief shepherd of Israel, as well as calling different leaders of the people shepherds. You have Psalm 80. You have Isaiah 40, verse 11, where it says, he will tend his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms. He will carry them in his bosom and gently lead those that are with young. And like I said, most famously, Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And as I said, the title and role of shepherd was also used of the leaders of Israel, the religious leaders who were meant to guide and protect and care for the people. Often, because of the lack of character and a failure on the leader's part, God would use this title to address them and address them in such a way to chastise them for what they had done. One of the clearest of the bunch is Ezekiel 34. God condemns the leaders of Israel. He says to them, you feed yourselves, but not the sheep. The weak you have not strengthened, the sick you have not healed, the injured you have not bound up, the lost you have not sought out. You rule over them with harshness and force. Because of this, the sheep were scattered and become food for the wild beasts. And if you're in Ezekiel 34 and you go to verse 5, it says, my sheep were scattered. God is speaking. He says, my sheep were scattered. God insists that the flock are his, the people are his, we are his. And so he continues and he promises he will search for the lost. He will rescue them. He will feed them and lead them and care for them. He will do all the things that the shepherd of the people should have been doing. And then Jesus shows up. Jesus steps into humanity to walk amongst us, to come and bring the sheep home. He does the work to find the lost sheep. Luke 15, Jesus, maybe with Ezekiel 34 in mind, tells the parable of the lost sheep. And in Luke 15:4, what man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. God rejoices when he finds the sheep that have gone astray. See, when God goes looking for the lost sheep, it's not to scold or hurt them, it is to protect them, to bring them out of darkness and into the light. He comes looking for you, not to punish you, but to restore you. Are there consequences to sin and rebellion? Yes, of course. But if you have put your faith in the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, you are one of his sheep, and he will always come looking for you. But just because you are a Christian doesn't mean you will be sinless, doesn't mean you will be perfect. You may have seasons of rebellion and sin. You may be like the sheep who will just go wandering off if not looked after. But let me tell you, you have never and are not now and will not ever go so far that God can't come find you. You have not gone so far that you are beyond the grasp of the grace and mercy of God. You are not forgotten or cut off. You have not done that thing and cannot do that thing that just keeps you from God. I've sinned too many times. I've screwed up too many times. I'm too broken. I'm too lost. That's just not true. God is right now and always seeking you and wants to find you and bring you back out of the darkness and into the light. But God will also judge the shepherds. As he says in Ezekiel 34, he will judge those shepherds who had failed and taken advantage of the sheep, and Jesus will speak about that in John 10. This role was hard, and it took energy, intentionality, care, strength, patience, selflessness, compassion, boldness. The responsibilities of the shepherd and the helplessness of the sheep demonstrate God and us, because we literally have nothing to offer him. And more than that, we are desperately in need of someone to care for us, or else we will end up like a wet ball of fur just in the stream, stuck traveling down the current because we're too weak and too scared to do anything for ourselves. You need help, you need a good shepherd, and he is here for you. Don't be so proud to think, well, I'm not a sheep. No, you are. And that's okay. It's not bad to be a sheep when you have the good shepherd on your side to care and provide and protect you. We are at our very best. We are sheep who need help, and we have been given the very best of shepherds to watch over us and lead us and provide for us.